To week 9 of composition 3. So today and this week we're going to explore some musical styles and the different elements that they include from around the world. So in our creativity challenge this week, we actually are going to compose a song from. Sorry about that. Welcome to week 9 of composition. Welcome to Composition 3, Week 9. And today we are going to be exploring some music and musical styles from around the world and see that music is a truly universal phenomenon that we all, in all cultures, we have music and there's value to them all. Um, and so we want to understand a little bit about what is goes into their styles and how they are constructed, as well as of course have some fun making music here too. So let's start off with our creativity challenge. We're going to compose a song using a scale from India. This is in different countries we use different scales. Now in the United States, we actually have a lot of different scales. Altogether, I would say we have about 48, 49 scales that we really use on a somewhat regular basis. The most common would be your major scale. Okay, now that's just something that we hear, and we hear it very naturally. Most of our music is either written in a major scale like that or a minor scale like this, like that. Now, other countries will use those as well, but they also have other scale types that, well, they sound a little different to us because it's a different combination of notes. So the scale this week is from India, and I want you to note that it has 8 notes, just like any other scale, but it skips a little bit. There's no F, for example. There's also this chromatic pattern here. Now, another thing that we actually cannot do with note flight, or lots of our instruments that we find commonly in the United States, is we can't play what we call quarter tones. Now, what this would be, it would be a note, like, say, for example, in between B flat and B. So I can kind of do it with my keyboard, with my modulation wheel. So here's B flat. The next note would be halfway between, and it'd be about there, and then I get the B natural. Oh, do you hear the slight difference there? So yeah, it's all there, and so it's kind of a hard thing to understand. One of the instruments that is somewhat used in India, it's called a sitar. You actually push the strings down accordingly, and you can get those quarter tones in there. And it's a really unique way of at least to us, of making music. For them, it's just normal way of hearing music. Now, so that's the scale we want to use in this one. The other thing we want to do is I want to make sure that we have some rhythms and some intervals that we hear that can make it very characteristic of Indian music. So the first one is this little rhythm here. It's actually a 30-second note. So we finally get to use the 30-second note. But it's really, we would normally write it out as a trill, but so that note flight can play it, we'll write it out with 30-second notes. Make sure that you do an eighth note and then add a dot to it here, so that way it doesn't shortchange the beat here. The second thing is you make use of the interval of a fourth or more for a more authentic sound. That's a very common interval. It's a very common jump that you'll get in Indian music. Actually, a lot of music worldwide will use that. And the other thing is use chromatic steps. So we go C, B, B flat. Okay, and so just an example of how the scale can be used. Also, there's an accompaniment here that uses the same notes. This is a repetitive sound called a drone, and it stays consistent throughout the song. One of the things about a lot of music worldwide is that it'll use what we call a drone. Like even this is pretty far away from Scotland or from India, but in Scotland you'll have the bagpipes. Well, the way a bagpipe works is with the bagpipers, the arm, he's pushing a bag that pushes wind in and out of a drone, and it actually plays the same notes the whole time. Then with his other fingers, he is basically playing like a flute-like instrument as he blows into it. So it's a pretty interesting and common worldwide thing. So here we go. Let's give this a try. Here's my example of it. Here's the drone. Hear the rhythm there? Okay. And then from there, you're off to your version of it. So have a one measure intro, and then start your melody here, and see what you can do for these I think 12 measures here, and have fun with it. Be creative, and just explore some different scales and rhythms and sounds that we can get in music. Okay. The second thing we're going to go on to today is we're going to go on to Brazil, so South America here. And in Brazil, there's actually a lot of types of music in Brazil. It's one of the most, I think, fascinating musical cultures of the world. And so I had to pick one. So we're going to do one in what we call Bossa Nova, and it's a jazz style that came out of Brazil. It really emerged in the 1950s, and it made just a huge worldwide impact in the way music was created from that point on, really. And it's a very relaxing style. It's not too fast. It's usually in a major happy key. For this composition, you get to compose the melody for an electric guitar. Since it emerged in the 1950s, it was one of those instruments that was just coming into popularity, and so it got to be used. So the first three lines do include some helpful information. So first of all, this is your C major scale. Notice I went pretty high for this one, didn't I? These are all good notes for the range of an electric guitar. It can go a little lower too, but we'll keep it in this range since we're in the key of C for this one. Now, does this mean you have to use all the notes? No, definitely not. It's always good to limit where you're at. So you might want to spend some time or a section playing just some of the higher ones, maybe another section using the lower ones, or just stay in one range or one section of it as you can too. Also, these are the chords that are used on the song Bossa on the Beach. The chord changes on beat 1 of every measure, and it will fit into your melody better if the first note of each measure is a note found in the chord. This is a concept we reviewed in or learned in composition 2, but just to review it, remember when we get to a new chord, you start your melody on that measure with one of the notes of the chord. So like, for example, here's a C major 7 chord. The notes are C, E, G, and B right there. So any one of those notes would sound good to start your melody on in that measure. The other thing to work on here is just working on some of the rhythms here. One of the things about music around the world is that it'll use different rhythms as a means of expression here. Notice this one, it starts on beat 4. That's actually a very common way of doing it, and then it has a rest here. Using ties in between the beats here, so we go 1 and 2 and, so it'd be like that. That's how that one would sound, but that's a very common way of doing that. Dotted rhythms too, so we get, okay. Also remember, and this is kind of one of our big concepts all throughout composition here, short notes lead to long notes. Okay, and so here's where your the song starts, and it'll go there. I give it a little intro, and then you get to start your melody here. So let's listen to it and kind of get an idea of what this will sound like. If I can get it to play. Nice little intro, kind of sets the stage. Nice and relaxing, right? Here's where your melody would start. Maybe start on beat 4 there. Remember, rests are important as well as you're starting to compose your melody for this. Each section is kind of a long section. That's pretty common here. There's lots of chords that take place. I'm going to pause it for a second. And then notice when you get to the end, it ends with a big whole note there. Now, let's go back to where you would start your melody here. There we go. So again, you start off here. You might not want to start right on beat 1. And we always like to give it a little bit of a space there. And so I'm going to start with I have to stop it. We have to start with a rest. Remember, just hit delete there. And then we want to make sure that we start with one of the chord tones. So we could start with C. That'd be a pretty normal one. But let's start with an E on this one. And then let's add some rhythm here. And then next chord, and I get to the next measure here, I have an A minor 7 chord. So if I need to, I'm going to go back to where I'm at here. I see an A minor 7. I have A, C, E, G. I'm going to write those down too into some little piece of scratch paper. And I'm going to do a long note here. Let's do a half note. Okay, let's see how this sounds. I think it started here. Okay. Now I'm going to show you one more trick on this one. Notice my rhythm here. I went chord arrest, da 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 da. Okay, and then next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually wait till the next measure, and I'm going to essentially apply the same rhythm here, but I'm going to change the notes here. Actually, I'll just write them in. But I'm also going to have to start on different notes because I have a different chord here. Let's get the 8th note in there. Da, da, da. Then my next one, da, 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 da. Let's make that a half note, just like I did before. Notice the rhythm stayed the same, but I changed the melody notes for it, right? That's actually a very common thing that we'll do in music, is that we'll keep rhythm ideas the same. Let's give this a try. Here we go. Ah, nice, huh? Okay, you know what? I might do it again here. So take that same rhythm on the next measure. Again, I have to use different notes though, because let's see, I'm going to start on the D because it's an E minor 7, so I get E, G, B, and D on that one. Get my 8th notes in there. Oops, there we go. And then I get my half note. I think I'll skip up to the G. Okay, and then here's where I'd probably do something similar and bring it to a close. So now don't remember, you can also skip around. You don't have to stay with just some scale motion. Oops, I want the B there. And let's give this a try. I'm going to play this whole section of melody here. So. Ah, that sounds good, doesn't it? And then the section starts over again. It's an 8-measure section here. And so one of the things I wanted just to show you with this is keep the rhythm simple and the same. You can vary it a little bit if you wanted to vary it. One of the greatest places to do that is the end, the last one that you would do. And so I might, let's see, I'll change this one. like that. That's a real simple change, isn't it? But it would probably be effective. Let's play it again, and just so you can hear that little variation. So it's still the same. Now here's that change. Okay. Anyways, those are just some ideas for you to, as you get started with your bossa nova composition. Have fun this week with these compositions. Explore these different styles. You might also do some with your parents' help, some searches of different examples of Indian music or bossa nova music too. And so have fun with this, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.